Many leaders, when they aren't performing at the level they're capable of, often want to blame something: the organization, the team, the timing, the resources they don't have. In 50 years of working with leaders across almost every sector, I've heard every version of that answer. In most cases, it's wrong. The thing in their way is usually the leader themselves. Not their competence, that's real, but something internal that's quietly working against them in ways they haven't been able to see clearly enough to address. I know this because it happened to me. I ended up in a hospital in Tucson. I'll tell you that story later, because I couldn't see what I was doing to myself until my body made the decision for me. Hello, I'm Dr. Broom. Welcome to a Leadership and Self-Mastery video. Here's the formula that helped me see the decision my body made for me. Personal power equals I times E times P divided by resistance. The I stands for intellectual energy, the E for emotional energy, and P for physical energy. But let's start with what personal power actually is. Power is a word that gets used way too loosely. Power is simply energy in use, not potential, not what you're capable of in theory, but energy actively directed toward getting something done. Personal power is how you use your energy. That's it. The formula is just a way of making that visible. Think about what leaders actually use their energy for. Developing a strategy that's genuinely responsive to what's happening right now. Navigating a difficult conversation that everyone in the organization is avoiding. Holding steady when things aren't working and the pressure to react is high. All that is a leader's personal use of power. And then there's the important use, since leaders get their work done through others. Generating influence so that others will move toward the goals of the system. That's where personal power becomes leadership rather than just individual effectiveness. We're going to spend the entire next Leadership and Self-Mastery video on that. But it starts here, with you and how you are using your energies. The numerator in the formula has our three energy forms: intellectual, emotional, and physical. Together, they are how much energy you have available to get your work done. Intellectual energy is how you gather information, analyze it, and make decisions. It's the thinking engine. Emotional energy is what moves you to act. Your intellectual energy can tell you what needs to happen, and you still don't do it. What's missing in that situation is rarely more information. What's missing is emotional energy, the caring and the will to follow through. Emotional energy is our engine of motivation. Physical energy is the energy of action itself. It's the energy of actually doing what we are motivated to do. Physically showing up, physically speaking, physically going to where we want to go. Of course, that's also the energy that keeps our hearts beating. Now notice the multiplication sign between the three energies. These energies don't add, they multiply. If any one of them goes to zero, your result goes to zero, no matter how much of the other two you have. You've seen this. The brilliant and motivated leader so physically exhausted she can't accomplish what she set out to do. With any factor at zero, the product is zero every time. But when all three are working together, that's what you see what leadership can actually look like. I worked with the CEO of a mid-sized healthcare system. She was preparing to ask her board to endorse a radically new strategy she knew they'd push back against. It wasn't going to be a small moment. She'd spent a week thinking it through carefully. The data, the argument, the likely objections, and what she'd say when pushed. That's intellectual energy doing its job. She genuinely believed that her strategy, though risky, would save the organization from a potential bankruptcy. The strength of her belief made her willing to walk into a room to propose something that was very risky. That's emotional energy, caring deeply enough to make you move even against difficulty. And she'd done the glamorous work of showing up ready, getting enough sleep, clearing a candle, protecting it the days before, so she arrived with plenty in the tank. That's physical energy. Many leaders underestimate physical energy right up until the moment they don't have it. The conversation she had with the board was hard. She didn't get everything she wanted, but she moved the board. She'd been at her best because all three of her energies were actually online and aligned. Take any one of them away and the story would have ended differently. If her analysis was half-baked, if she was not quite convinced that it would work, if she walked in exhausted and her thinking goes flat under pressure. Same situation, but problematic outcome. So the numerator matters enormously, but it's only the top half of the equation. Now let's look at the bottom half. Resistance is anything inside of you that interferes with the energy you're generating. I want to be clear about what I mean and what I don't. I, E, and P measure your capacity, what you're capable of bringing. Resistance isn't the absence of that capacity. It's what keeps us from using our full capacity toward what we want to accomplish. You can be analytically sharp and still have something distorting how you apply that sharpness. You can be emotionally invested and still have something pulling your energy sideways. Those are very different problems, and the difference matters because the fix is different too. Let's look back at the same leader. She walked into that boardroom meeting with all three energies running. But I want you to imagine three different versions of that same moment. Same woman, same meeting, same stakes, one thing different each time. In the first version, she learned leadership in an environment where decisions came from the CEO, the role she's now in. People executed the CEO's wishes without an explanation. It worked where she came from. She never questioned whether it would work here. So when the board starts asking questions she wasn't expecting, she read it as a challenge to her authority. So rather than genuine curiosity, she responds accordingly, and the conversation closed down exactly when she needs to open it up. Her intellectual resistance, a mental model she hadn't examined, distorted how she read the room. In the second version, she's still carrying something from 6 months earlier, a major initiative she led that failed poorly. She hasn't processed it fully, the embarrassment and the self-doubt. And beneath her careful preparation is a quiet fear of being wrong again with the same people. She makes it to the meeting, she presents, but she pulls her punches at the last moment when she needed most to hold her ground. Her emotional resistance, her fear of failure, was dividing her energy. In the third version, she's been traveling all week. Back-to-back flights, late meals grabbed after calls. She's telling herself she's fine. She's handled worse. She walks in, and the meeting starts well. But 40 minutes in, when the room starts to turn on her, she needs to read what's happening and adapt in real time. But her exhaustion won't let her. Physical resistance doesn't always announce itself. It just quietly degrades your ability when you need it the most. Same woman, same meeting, 3 different ways the denominator wins. I've lived all 3 of these. My own unexamined needs distorted decisions I believed were purely rational. Someone I trusted had to show that to me. The resistance was real. I just couldn't see it yet. Here's what the formula is telling you when you put it all together. The numerator is what you bring. The denominator is how you're working against yourself. Resistance divides rather than subtracts. Even a small increase can cut your actual output dramatically, regardless of how much energy you're generating. Most leadership development works on the numerator: more strategy, sharper communication, better self-awareness. That's not wasted effort, but in my experience, it's the wrong end of the equation to work on first. The question that changes the frame is, where am I getting in my own way? Not what's in my way, not who's in my way, not who's the problem. What resistance am I generating that's dividing my own power? The hard truth, we're usually both the problem and the solution. The formula is simple, but simple doesn't mean easy. Personal power grows when you direct genuine intellectual, emotional, and physical energy toward goals that actually matter to you, and doing the harder work of identifying and reducing the resistance you're generating yourself. Before the next video, pick something you want to accomplish. Then ask yourself at least one of these 3 questions. Pick the one that makes you slightly uncomfortable. That's probably the right one. Is your intellectual energy actually focused? Or are you holding too many agendas at once, calling it multitasking? Are your emotions pointed at the same target as your strategy? Or is some part of you pulling towards something else? And if so, what does it actually want? Do you have enough physical energy to sustain what you're asking of yourself? And if not, what are you telling yourself about why that's okay? In the next video, we'll move from this foundation to the influence that it can enable or disable. Personal power that stays internal isn't leadership. It's just potential if we don't use it to influence effectively. We'll look at why some leaders can walk into a room and shift what's possible and what they're actually doing that most people mistake for charisma. Please like and subscribe. See you next time.